Oh.
Did you get your word from the control tower?
I think, hey, Pete. Yes, Pete, we are good. That is the word from the control room that we are looking for, buddy. As long as you can hear me all right, Pete, you got good hearing on me. We're going to move forward. All right, then. I think the proper thing to do is go with a, we'll treat this show just like we do every other week. It is a different kind of night, but we'll take care of some housekeeping and go through the process like we normally do, because, you know, it's just, we'll stay on course and let it run. I want to introduce myself first. My name is Mike, aka Munster Rc, owner of Carryallrc. Welcome to the doghouse, and this is the Rad Show. A couple of RC addicted dads, bringing you the latest and greatest of the week, the lighter side of RC, seen through our lens. So thank you for stopping by. If you're still here, if it's your first time joining us, welcome and thank you. If you are a repeat customer coming back for more, thank you again. The only thing I encourage you to do is please stop by before you check out and hit that subscribe button. We hit 500 subscribers. We got a nice giveaway from FMS Hobby to share with you. In fact, you know what? I'll give you 2 minutes. We can pause for a minute. Let Pete, we'll get down the FMS. We'll give you a second to go over, click that subscribe button, and we'll throw up a power wagon. You part of the 500 subscribers, that will make you automatically eligible for that prize. Now, I think the only other thing I wanted to make sure that we touched on before we put the game face on here, Pete, and got down to business, it's important I hand things off to you now, give you a chance to say who you are, and give us a chance to bring in our special guest host for tonight. That's something kind of new for us. We've always run this as a two-man tag team. Because of the guests that we are having on tonight, knowing it's a little outside my wheelhouse, thought it would be important to bring somebody in, somebody that Pete, you and I learn a lot from. So we'll bring him in a second. But as I hand things off here to the co-host with the mostest, my ride or die, my man, my good friend, my homie, Peter. How are you, sir?
What's up, Mike? Good to be back on a Saturday night. You know, excited about tonight. You know, it's a hot topic this week. You know, big things going on in the comp world. You know, excited to hear from these gentlemen. You know, and learn more about SORCA and everything else. And like each week, as the customers know and the fans, we launched our Facebook and Instagram platform. So please give us a like. I post all the updates and previous shows on the Facebook page. So check it out. It's a good hub for information for us, central place. Like each week, we like to thank our sponsors. Each week, Mike and I collaborate throughout the week, work with various sponsors that make the show happen. Carryallrc, Treal Hobbies, CowRc, Rebel RC, Crazy Crawler Foams, Powerhobby, 2.4 Designs, nice shirt, Mike. Crawler Colt RC, RC Misfits, Scale Rat, KNK Hradware, Venture RC, our good buddy Wesmade, RC Prorack, FMS Race Place Hobbies. I know you went there tonight. Remote Control Hobbies, our buddy out there in Orlando, and Real Sticky. Each week we started thanking him for making all our promo materials. We're coming out with all kinds of cool designs, scale banners for the garage. So thank you, Real Sticky. Clay Apple doing a good job over there. Yeah, so busy week, man. A lot of trucks dropping. There's new stuff coming. I know you got a little surprise over there, but
and we can probably do that in a minute. I think it would probably be good to try and take care of some of the housekeeping before we bring all the guests in, because it's going to get hectic. But thank you for asking, Pete, about all the scruff. It is no shave. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. For such a night, I probably would have shaved up and look a little cleaner for this, but it is officially no shave November. And if you're not familiar, I've realized more and more people are not actually familiar with this. They don't think it's actually a thing, but it is. No Shave November. And hopefully after Thanksgiving, I might have a big proud beard that a beard I can be proud of. We'll see.
I want to see you with the rubber bands. Yeah, I want to see you bring it all the way down.
I'm telling you, the wife, this, December 1st, this thing's coming off. But the reason we do it is for cancer awareness. And that is the whole reason No Shave November happens. And I think to be honest, I think it's for prostate cancer, to be specific. But all cancer falls into it. It's to bring awareness and hopefully strike up a conversation. If somebody comes up, hey, you look like a dirtball. You didn't shave. Why didn't you shave? Well, it's actually No Shave November. And let me tell you about prostate cancer and bring you some awareness to all types of cancer. On that topic, the other reason I am not shaving this ugly mug is for our guest next week. Next Saturday, we are having the gentleman who started Crawl for a Cure. He's got a really neat backstory dealing with his struggles and his battle that so far he is winning against cancer. So he has a great story to share with everyone, and also what he has done as with this RC event, Crawl for a Cure. I'm going to I'll let you do it, Pete, but let's bring our co-host in here, and then we'll pull out something that we picked up tonight from our local hobby shop, one of our sponsors. But I think our co-hosts will probably enjoy this. Like I said, our good friend, Jeremy Kilburn, he is here with us tonight. We'll give him a chance to introduce himself. But we needed somebody, Pete, you can agree with me. We needed somebody like Jeremy tonight.
Yeah, man.
Jeremy, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Glad to be here. Glad to support this. If you don't know who I am, I'm successful in my escape from realities. I'm a collector, as you can see. I've been doing RC stuff since I was 12, and I'm old now, so it's working on like 30 plus years in RC. Been competing in and out of SORCA for a long time. I used to build trucks out of Stampede transmissions, if that helps you date me on how old I am.
But it is true. Peter and I and Arsenal, I don't even know the number of others besides Peter and I that tap you as a resource. You seem to have the book memorized up until we changed it. You had the book memorized. You knew the way to get us scale points without even trying. And somebody that drives like I do, all the scale points, the better. He's been a resource. Wouldn't you say, Pete? It's great to have him.
I mean, it's good. We always talk about this. It's good to have that person that you can lean on. And both of you guys have been my mentor since I really got back into the hobby. And it's good. If I ever have a question or I have a technical, I know I could always reach out to Jeremy. He's a great resource, great friend, very technical person, and he always helps you out, no matter how busy he is, no matter where he is in the world. I feel like I could always throw him a text and be like, I got this problem. How do I fix it? And he'll say, send me a video so I could see it, hear it, and he solves the problem. So, Jeremy's a pioneer in the industry and a good friend, and does great things for the hobby. So it's good to have somebody like that in your bullpen. So.
And valid point, Pete, as far as always being available, and it's crazy to say that because he's spread thin. We're kind of talking about him like he's not even in the room, but I mean, with what he's doing behind the scenes through all these different companies, he's become this R&D beta testing ambassador for so many, probably under non-disclosure agreements that we don't even know about. But I'm just saying, huge ally, and thank you, Jeremy. I wanted to bring you on, Jeremy, to show you something that we swung by. We didn't even want to make this announcement earlier in the week because we didn't know if it would happen, but I picked something up that will just kind of tear the knife in Peter's back because we know how much you love blue. So I did this specifically for you.
Had to get blue, right?
I had to get the blue.
Had to get the blue. Nice.
Now, the blue, it does pop. I mean, in person, the way. Now, what was your question, Pete? You wanted to compare it to the Axial, right? Side by side comparison. I mean, size-wise, we know that there's going to be a difference, right? I mean, size-wise.
But the details.
The details. I mean, there's no question. There's details here. No interior would be the big thing that they left off. But there's something about this Traxxas truck. It just looks like it's gonna perform. It's not. It doesn't look like a toy anymore. All these micros had this toy feel. This thing actually looks good.
I think Traxxas sat back and waited for things to settle out, and they were like, how can we get the come hither easy release body mounts? How can we improve the platform and release all the option parts all at the same time, so nobody's hunting for upgrades? And I think they did a really good job.
They did, and I'm glad you said the magic word, upgrades, because I robbed the rack of some cool things that I just like caught my eye.
He's got a 24-hour hold on those parts, though. They got to be back in the shop tomorrow.
Yeah, full disclosure, these things have to be returned.
He signed them out.
Yeah, it did. It was like a library. All right. So the first thing that caught my eye, we're dealing with licensed tires. So I got the right one. Not that anybody's going to be able to prove me wrong, but these are the BF Goodrich licensed tires, pre-mounted on wheels already. Okay, BF Goodrich pre-mounted. Then you've got the Mickey Thompsons, not on a wheel. So you just got licensed Mickey Thompsons here. Then they did beadlocks, two different colors that they had there at the store. These, I know the lighting's drowning it out, but trust me, they're stainless beadlocks, lightweight, but reasonably priced. But if you need to make them heavier, they did the brass inserts. Then I know we're going rapid speed here to get to our guests. They even packaged the light kit, right? Everything is like packaged so neatly and ready to bolt on. And then aftermarket bodies and versions to paint and all the accessories, they handled it right out of the gate. Shocks, links, color versions. I mean, kudos to Traxxas. And on Jeremy's point, what he was saying, solving a lot of problems. And I think steering radius was one that drove me nuts. There was like none on the other micros. And they took the time, and I think they did a good job getting a decent amount of throw. I don't want to mess up the servo. I should have brought the controller, but there is a wicked amount of throw on these, what you're not used to seeing on an RTR micro. Would you agree with that? Absolutely.
And what I'm really interested in is that straight axle, and I'm hoping that they scale that up to the 10 on the next TRX-4 iteration. That straight axle, that looks legit.
Yeah. And the last thing, bam, the little trailer. It comes with the hitch. You mount it. It looks really good with the Defender. I mean, nothing wrong with the Bronco, but they got the price point right on this. I think it's under $30. Now it's super lightweight. Toss it around, but it solves the problem. It's a silly trailer. I mean, it's got some cool detail to it. Let me try that again without blocking it with my hand. So trailer options, pretty cool stuff. 1/18 scale. That is it. What do you think?
I guess you have a new truck to buy, huh?
What do you think, Pete? Was it enough to convince you? I know you've been hesitant.
I got too much stuff here, man.
I think you will change your mind if you saw it in person. I really do. I really, really do.
Well, let me get through the Phoenix. Let me get that finished.
Well, I went with the Defender. I went with the gray Defender because I just lost mine in a trade to Tyler Slane. We bartered TRX-4 for a Night Runner, and now I need to get that Defender back. I'm already regretting it. My Defender's been out of my hands for less than 24 hours, and I want it back, Tyler. No, I'm joking. But I can replace it with an 18 scale version, so pretty cool. But I think that was the most important one we wanted to get to. And again, we thank RC Misfits and Race Place Hobbies for all the support, everything they do week after week to help us and letting us borrow that. You know, we can't spend a whole lot of time on it because we have an important guest to get to. And I think that's what we should be focused on right now. What is different, Pete, this week? Right out of the gate, we got a third host. But the next thing that's going to be different is we're going to bring on a panel of guests. And normally it's been a three-way, comfortable, collected, and us just rattling things off. This is going to be a little bit different. It'll be bringing four guys on from the SORCA board. But I think by the end of the show, if we accomplish anything, I'm hoping that we can paint a more human side to SORCA that maybe more people can start to realize that it is RC enthusiasts, much like ourselves, trying to do right by everyone. So hopefully we get the human part of this across.
All right, let's bring them in.
There's one, there's two, three, four. Well, hello, gentlemen.
Hi, Mike.
Hello.
I think the best way to kind of bring this all in nice and tight, like a family, and we know who we're talking to. I guess I've kind of taken Dan, the point of the spear here in the last week and been coordinating a lot through him. So I'm probably going to toss the ball off to Dan, let him have an opportunity to start things off. But we're going to have a couple of questions. Once we get through your bios and kind of know who we're dealing with, then we'll go through a couple of questions that we think we had and things that we've noticed. And maybe if we have enough time, once we get through your announcements and all the good stuff, we'll have a chance to take some Q&A from the public, and mainly Jeremy, that's why you're here. Help us sort through some of the questions and all the sort through all that good stuff. So Dan, I'm going to hand the ball off to you and let you get things started. Kind of tell us who you are, why you're here, what you're doing, and we'll go from there.
Sounds good. First of all, thanks for having us on. Secondly, yes, we are human. And just to repeat, we are not the man. We don't work for anybody. We don't get anything for this. So that's the other myth we want to dispel. But I guess before I get into who I am, let me start with the announcement so that everybody kind of knows what we're doing. I think the big thing that I want people, and by I mean the SORCA board, we want people to know is that the rules went out early so that we could get feedback. We want to make sure that constructive feedback is established and that the rules that are for everybody, not just the SORCA board, are fair and also usable. So we've done a few things, like we had an alpha group review the notes, and we went through and did like a 8 to 10 person release, kind of seeing what they thought, and then we rolled it out to the public. There's 7.1 thousand people on the SORCA board, I think, right now. Not the board, sorry, but the actual Facebook board. And we've only had about 100 forms. So if you guys want to get feedback in, check out that form and get it to us by Monday. We will be kind of doing two things. One, I know I said we'd kind of, not this Monday, but next Monday, get you a new release. Because of this announcement, we might need another week on top of that. And let me get to the announcement now. We decided based on feedback that we're going to take the 2022 points and merge them with the 2023 wording. So maybe not full restoration, but we're going to take our time and go through every single one and figure out which point value should be reestablished and at what level, so that there's a happy medium between the new restrictions, which are intended to create a penalty for adding points, and the old ones, which you could run full points with no penalties. For example, the drop bed. There was not a single drawback to having a drop bed, but it was points, lower center of gravity, full points, right? So we've got to find a way to restore order on the points where they actually inhibit you. They don't just make your points go higher. So that's kind of where we're looking, but we heard you, we're listening. That's our big major change. We wanted everybody to kind of hear that. The other thing is I'm going to hammer it home again. We are doing this for everybody, and that's why we put the rules out. There's a lot of confusion in some of the replies saying, hey, why'd you guys release this? It doesn't say draft. And I was like, well, it's not technically live yet, and they're living rules. There isn't really a draft for that, right? So they haven't been established or announced as far as live. They go live in January, and we've made some videos with, hey, if you're starting an event in January, be nice, be lenient. It's going to take time for people to get used to this. So I just wanted to kind of clear those two things up real quick. And then as far as who I am, my name is Dan Slusinski. I am a kind of new to the hobby. 3-4 years I've been doing it, and I went from having no trucks to my wife wants to know why all my money goes into that. Obviously, I collect other things. I've been redoing my office, like half my Transformers are up here right now, but I stopped buying those as much, and I buy a lot more RCs now. And I'm addicted to comps. I probably do a comp every other weekend, or at least 1 to 2 a month at minimum. And I dabbled in RC most of my life, but it was mostly just, hey, my buddy had one, or hey, a boat, or something like that. So I'm heavily addicted, but I'm relatively new to the community, which gives me, I think, in my opinion, for the SORCA board point of view, I don't really care about the history. I don't really care about all the dynamics that are written in people's tribal knowledge. I know what it's like to come into the hobby and try to build off of those rules. And I would go to the comp and I'd be like, what do you mean this isn't legal? This is how it's written. Well, that's not what it means based on a Facebook post from 1992. I'm like, what is that? So that's the other thing, is we're getting the rules so that we quote the rules, and the rules, if you can't answer it with the rules are wrong. So there's me, there's my background, there's my announcement. I know we got other people on the call, so I'll shut up now.
That was perfect. Who's going next? How about Ben? We'll go right down the middle. Ben, are you ready?
Yeah. Ben Morin. I've been in the RC hobby since I was a kid. Mainly raced until I got my driver's license, and then the little cars weren't as fun anymore. So as I got older and got into off-road, I found the crawlers, and I've been deep into it ever since. Probably 2005, I think I built my first rock crawler, and scale took off somewhere around, I don't know, 2009, 2010. My first national event was 2012, and I've been involved with nationals ever since. I used to be the gray area guy. I used to push the rules as hard as I could, and it was kind of bragging rights to see who could get more red rules written after them. Kind of a local competition to see who could piss SORCA off the most. And I got to the point where I was unhappy with the rules and decided that if I'm gonna bitch about them, then I may as well sign up. And if I'm not willing to do the work that I'm complaining about, I may as well sign up and do it myself. And I probably shouldn't have. It was a whole lot more fun playing with toy trucks than writing rules. But that's where I'm at now. My goal is to keep things as clean and fair as possible between the board. You can please 90% of the people 90% of the time. I'm looking for an equal playing field. I'd like to see class 1 be as scale as possible, and class 3 be as close to run what you brung as possible. So that's what I push for in the board. But like Dan said, there's a select group of us, and we are trying to keep it evenly spaced. From, like, I'm one of the competition guys, and there's guys that are really true scale builders, and we try to keep the voting population inside the committee equal, so we have a good rule set for everybody.
Brilliant. Pleasure to meet you, Ben. Thank you for being here. Peter, I'll have, who's far left here on my screen? Sean, is that correct?
Yep.
Sean,
Cook.
how are you, Sean?
Good to be here tonight.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Sean. Who are you? Where are you from?
I'm Sean Cook, aka R2J Customs. I've been to RC since I was 19, so I'm 53 now. Been a while. Raced in two-wheel drive trucks, you know, buggies, truggies, and touring car. 2008, found our crawler and just fell in love with crawling. Started with comp crawling, started building my own chassis, started building my own links. Is that, you know, back then that's what you did. You just made everything. So started welding up tube chassis, making different links, different skids. The scale kind of started happening and started getting more and more. That was when I was living in Colorado. I'm now in South Dakota. But yeah, it took off, scale took off, and I got involved with SORCA Board. I've been on there since I was trying to go back and see on RC Crawler how long I've been on there, but it's 2012, I think, 2013 that I've been on the SORCA Board. Got off a couple times for a short period of time, just for a little break. But I've been here. Ben and I are probably, well, obviously Ben and I are the ones that have been on the longest out of the group right now. Well, Devlin. But yeah, I'm probably considered one of the more scale guys. I don't compete as much, but I like to build. So I'm on the building side. And really, you know, strangely enough, between Ben and I, he's a lot of competition and I'm a lot of scale. We do agree on a lot of, him and I kind of tend to side together a lot, just because we've been around a long time and seen a lot of stuff. So that's pretty much my background.
Well, I know we're going to come back to you, Sean, because you speak my language when you're talking about scale. So I'm going to have a couple of questions for you. So be ready. But thank you for having a voice for the scale guys within the SORCA family. Thank you for being here, Sean.
Thank you.
Who do we got left? Darren with us tonight. Darren, how are you?
Good, Mike. Thanks for having us again. And Pete and Jeremy for coming on, helping us out and introducing us. I've been dabbling with RCs all my life. My dad was a big RC planes guy, boats, a little bit of cars and stuff, but I never got seriously into rock crawling and scale stuff until about 2013. I started running in the local comp scene. Did all the classes, you know, class 1, 2, 3. We had at that time, we had like the pros and the shafties and stuff, and you know, I loved all of it. And about been on the committee for about 3 or 4 years now. And as my interest in rock crawling and scale crawling and stuff merged, I am a scale builder. I like being 100% scale as possible. You know, I've done my own radius arms for Bronco builds that I've done, but I also like performance. And in that respect, I like my class 1s to be, you know, look like real trucks, act like real trucks, and drive the heck out of them. And then, you know, going up class 2, class 3, I want to see them perform more. So I kind of got a balanced take, but I do always want to stress scale realism. Like if it doesn't look real, I don't appreciate it. I know that, you know, people have, you know, the interpretation of the rules and how they, you know, want their trucks to look. I want them to look like someone could actually sit in them and drive them in the real world. So that's where I come from. I'm a scale guy, but I also want to see that thing perform.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And I'm sure we'll come back to you again also. So I think the best thing to get this thing started, since we're going to be pressed for time, we're going to keep this rapid fire. The question, I think, right out of the gate, what does SORCA stand for? What is the acronym and what does it stand for?
Who wants to answer that?
That'd be Ben, but we'll see if he knows how to unmute.
Yeah. Honestly, it's been so long, I don't even remember. It has to do with scale off-road. Yeah, I don't remember. It's been
off-road RC rock crawling associated.
There it
Yeah.
is.
That's
I-
what it is.
I honestly didn't think that would trip you up. I've got stuff a lot harder. Just get ready.
It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
It shouldn't, but we've been so wrapped up in text and words and arguing for. We take people who are friends and argue until we're mad at each other. So.
No, it's a great way to break the ice. This is good. All right. So how many people are on the board? What is, because am I correct? We're missing 2. If my math is right, 4 + 2 is 6. Is it 6 people on the board?
Currently, yes. Yeah, there's been a turnover. We started out, God, there's always been 14, 15, 16, and they've been dying off, people getting burnt out. We get in fights, we get in arguments, we all have our feelings. We're all very passionate about this, and we want to see it go right, and we argue until it gets really quiet and people disappear. Right
Honestly,
now,
we were at 15 people at once on the SORCA board. Did I hear that correctly?
Yep.
correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's very hard to get. So you've seen in the past years, you only see 1 or 2 rule changes, and everybody wants to see this changed and wants to see that changed, and they ask us to, and we try, but we argue until we can't come up with a conclusion where we're mad at each other, and nothing gets done. So
There's only 3 of us on this show, and watch how hard it's going to be to get through this. So I couldn't imagine what 15 looks like.
Yeah, so we've tapered it down. We ran into a big argument over this rule set, and it got down to really, really low activity. And so the current right now is everybody who is interested in putting this rule set out that spoke up is currently on the board, and the others made it through the buy rules where inactivity puts you out of the group. So we're down to an equal amount right now. We have 2 very scale guys, 2 very competitive guys, and 2 guys that are one is very good at the computer side of it and the PC side of it, and one is really good at catching things we missed. So we're a very rounded group with a small enough number that we can actually get things done now.
Well, it seems like you guys have worked yourself through some of the kinks and lived through the headaches. So I will go out there right away and simply say thank you for what you're trying to do and get this all done. So that probably leads us into the question as to why. What is your purpose for SORCA? Like, why do we need a SORCA? And I don't know if I want to make this a double-loaded question, but we'll leave it at that first. Like, why are you guys doing this? Besides the passion, I think Dan rattled it off some way to make a level playing field across the nation. Something, is that the answer?
I mean, at a high level, just to jump in real quick, every sport that exists, whether it be NHL, NBA, we're not that level, obviously, but let's go lower. Chess, cricket, badminton, what else? There's other sports. Underwater basket weaving has rules. The point is, if you build a truck and you go to an event that's called SORCA, it has to be SORCA. You have to know that the things you do at a local SORCA comp are going to work at the national comp and vice versa. And the old rules, it was more about people. Jeremy's an expert at this. What wasn't written is what people were doing. These rules are about what's written, which is why there's a little bit of a knee-jerk reaction, and then the calm kind of set in. It's the internet, right? So we still got angry people, we still got really happy people, the bulk of people are whatever. But that's the intent, right? The mission statement is so that if you're at a SORCA event, you know that what you have built for SORCA is going to work no matter what. And the way you run the course is going to be the same no matter what. You're not going to go from SORCA event A to SORCA event B, be told that you don't get points for this, or you can't use that, or you have to use this vehicle device, or your land anchor versus your winch. Like, it's just normalizing the sport, so that as people travel across country or from Taiwan, they know that what they're doing is not going to change.
Did you just make that mission statement up on the fly?
Maybe.
That's why he's our
Damn,
PC guy.
that was good.
That was good.
That's good.
I was looking for it in the book. I'm like, you know what? Maybe the way I asked the question, I should have said, "What is your mission statement? What is the vision?" Going from there, but okay. So you kind of led me into my next question. What is the purpose? Why does somebody want to run a sanctioned SORCA event? Meaning, if I go to my local hobby shop and they have a crawling course, do I want to push my local hobby shop to start running SORCA events? And if so, why? Like, what would be my spiel to him?
Just so I don't do all the talking, maybe I'll give you a quick answer and then maybe go around the room if that's okay with you.
Yep.
My thing is this, and I run my teams at work this way too. If you don't want to do something, don't do it. Like, if you're not going to have fun, don't do it. Like, period, end of story, right? So I don't think anybody should be forcing anybody to do anything. I think, though, that the compelling side of SORCA is it's an adopted rule set that most of the country uses at some level. The problem is the old rules said local override, and it was more about what wasn't written. So nobody was really doing SORCA until you went to nationals. And then a lot of the events kind of rippled and had, well, at nationals, you can't do this now. And we're like, what do you mean my sliders don't count anymore? So this is kind of our attempt to fix that, so that SORCA guys are kind of dedicated. They're going to build expensive trucks. They're going to travel to events. They're going to spend a lot of money. So if I owned a shop and I wanted to run events, I would run a myriad of events, but my pride joy would be the SORCA style, because I know that's a group that's going to travel. That's a group that's going to compete. And that's a rule set that's already adopted. And that's why I would do it, but I'm going to stop talking.
Well, let somebody else pick this question up then. If somebody is running a SORCA light event, is that fall under you guys? Are you guys also SORCA light?
No. So SORCA light was basically created back from the KNK rules. Team KNK has a game farm. They have a great event and they have their own rules, which were basically our 2014 rules. They were a whole lot looser and they allow a lot more gray area. So it's widely respected. People love it over on that side of the country because it's available and that's what they can run. They've added a class 0, a class 2.5. They've added quite a bit to it and it's very open. When they went live with their rule set, they named it something else and I can't remember what it was, but we brought them in with the SORCA name. That way it would clarify the difference between the two of them. And it didn't really do what we intended it to do by adding the SORCA name to their rules. So I kind of feel bad that we pushed them that direction, but it is a completely separate rule set that's governed by a separate group of people. And, but yeah, it's very close to what we did back in 2013, 2014. It's just a very generalized, it's more about a fun rather than competition. It just keeps you kind of in line to go have fun more than compete.
It became the accessible. I mean, their rule sets allowed for the ready to run truck venue, the young guns and so forth. It's kind of like the Everyman Challenge versus the Pro at King of Hammers. I mean, it's a different rule set for a reason, as an introductory or a local loose, faster paced competition series.
Well, that makes sense. Well, thank you. Clear explanation. It is separate. And Dan, I'll come back to that. I was going to recognize you for one of the things that you were doing earlier. I know like a year ago, you were really trying to get people comfortable with a SORCA comp and really coaching them off to the side and helping them, get the wheel time without the clipboard and stopwatch over your shoulder and getting used to it. Is there anything like that? Like, what would your suggestion be to somebody new? Because I know we've got new people with us here tonight that are interested in this show who have never gone to a SORCA event. Is there anything that you can tell them as a human being, an RC enthusiast, to prep yourself mentally for a SORCA event? Because it puts a lot of anxiety on someone that's never been to that event, to the point that they're almost afraid to even go?
So I just went through that like 3 years ago, right? What I would say is this: the anxiety, and not to be dismissive, but the anxiety is not warranted, despite what Facebook looks like, because most people are jerks on Facebook. It feels like if you go to an event, if your motor breaks, somebody will literally take their motor out of their truck for you. They will spend all the time in the world to teach you how to drive your truck. The judge will tell you how to drive your truck out of things. As soon as I recognize somebody doesn't know what they're doing, I will literally tell them what to do to drive so that they can maybe complete the course. Because let's be honest, they're not podiuming. One of those individuals, well, I'll leave nameless, so I don't, I don't know how they would feel about the story, but the first time they ever showed up, they showed up with a built truck, and they were super nervous, like you said. I'm like, calm down, you're doing fine, you're just driving too fast. And then they got their truck stuck. I'm like, turn it passenger and hit reverse, and his truck flipped over, and he just looked at me and he's like, what did you just do? I'm like, nothing, you just got to calm down and think. He's like, huh. He beat me by 2 spots at fall crawl. So you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't take long, just get used to it. And I think as a human being, change is constant. We have to get used to things changing, the courses changing, the gear changing, the trucks evolving, and just get used to the fact that this is not a cheap hobby, but it's a fun hobby, and it's probably some of the best people I've ever been around, and that's why I stay in it.
So I'd like to add on to that is
Please.
a lot of us actually run our local clubs and host. We end up teching at nationals and all of our local stuff. And if we have a new guy, I mean, we write the rules to be strict, to keep things in a guideline for nationals, basically, and everybody in their locals to practice and be on the same page when they get there. But when a new guy and his kids show up and they're brand new to the hobby, I'm the guy at the tech table picking up sticks off the ground and sticking them in the back of their truck and calling it a scale log to get them at least some points and teaching them how it's easy to adapt into it. And we don't expect anything. I mean, I've had a 12-year-old show up with a Red Cat MOA, and he's going to be running. We don't turn people away at local events. We're going to keep them in the hobby and explain to them, you know, your score isn't going to show up on the internet in the deal, but throw your rig down. Let's go play, you know, and we're going to teach you everything we can about what we do and why we do it and how we do it. But we're not going to turn people away. If a kid showed up with a Traxxas Slash, be like, dude, shoot it, you know. Put it in there. Let's try it out. But your score's not going to be on the list at the end of the day. But we're gonna let everybody join in and have a good time. It's so, a local is a lot different than a huge comp.
So Ben, your local comp that you're referring to, or anybody's local comp, is a SORCA event. Do you guys have a year, do you have a monthly schedule for what SORCA events are happening around the country? And if so, does that all get entered back to you guys? And then is there a national list somewhere of where you are ranked within the country?
Not really. There's I mean, we just host it locally in town. I'm in Washington State, and there are 6 clubs in the state. And so we keep our schedules on our Facebook pages, and anybody that's a part of it or passing through is going to be able to see it. But there is Melissa Bivings was putting together a neat little site that it's on Facebook where she collects everybody's events and puts them all in one place so you can find it. But I can't think of the name of it. But Melissa Bivings is putting it together, and after the show, I'll get that information to you if you want to put it
RC Comps Group or something like that.
Something along those lines, yeah. But she keeps track of everything going on all over the U.S. and well, anything she can find really, and keeps it all in one place.
Well, that's a great idea. Thank you, Melissa, for doing that. That's a step in the right direction, letting people see that ranking throughout the country, keeping you in tune. But Ben, where would somebody find SORCA? I'm assuming since you guys are all around the country, there is no headquarters, a brick and mortar headquarters. You aren't being paid for this. So what is there an email, a SORCA at support at SORCA, something, or is it all through Facebook?
We're actually in a transition right now. We had a website and we no longer have access to it. It didn't get paid for and somebody else took it over. But we're counting on Dan as our new organization computer guru that knows the ins and outs, and we're going to get something set up soon. For now, it is the Facebook page. But like he's doing right now with the documents that you can send in to us with the release, he's getting us all organized and stuff like that.
So this might be a little too nerdy for this audience, but there's a new way to do documentation called Markdown language, and GitHub is a free host for that. And what I'd like to do is when the rules settle, I'd like to spend some time converting the Word doc into a Markdown language document so that it's a native scalable web application that just loads on your phone or wherever you're at. And if we make updates, it's got automatic patch notes, and it's more like deploying code as opposed to documentation. It's just, we got to get these rules right with you guys before that's going to take me a minute. So
yeah.
I got another leadership and I don't write code anymore. So I'm a little dumber than I used to be.
You're still a nerd.
Yeah. Giant nerd. I have a Dragon Ball shirt on.
He's our group nerd.
So Pete, did we have any questions? Jeremy, you guys seen anything on the coming through it all worthy? Okay, so I'll keep wrapping off here what I've got. Or Pete, do you have anything? Jeremy, do you want to chime in? I know Jeremy had something you wanted to ask, correct? Because I think this is when we're going to shift gears. Buckle up now. We're going to get a little bit more technical. I know your announcement did address some of this, correct? But Jeremy, go ahead. I think you wanted to say something.
So on one, I applaud you guys. You signed up for basically getting your butt kicked globally. I don't know why you do that, but thank you for doing that. I also applaud you for the modernization, having a reflective feedback document that we can submit and say, hey, you misspelled this word, or if you don't use the term rectangle and you just go with rectal, like it'll save you a page and a half. But it gave us access to you as a group to express ourselves. Whether it's founded or not is to be seen, but I do applaud you for that. The words have meanings and meanings have words, and I live and die by that literally. So when you say something or you express something in a rule set or a doctrinal term, it has to have a definition. And we try and stay away from phrases that have multiple meanings. And in the rules, I saw the question asked, I've been asked this, what does the word shooting mean when it comes to shooting a gate? And I know you guys are working on that, but there's, taking those descriptions out and putting a meaning in is really what you guys are tightening up on at this point. And people shouldn't be so worried about the word choice. Just fill out the document, question it, and maybe the committee will come back and they'll have a better definition for you. I know in a lot of my military doctrine, we have terms and graphics. So we define every word, every acronym, and that might be something helpful that I've also seen people ask, what do these mean? What do these mean? Maybe have a terms glossary, definitions. Yeah.
There's a version that didn't go public that has an empty glossary page. We just ran out of time. So it is something that will happen, because you know this better than anybody, but an AAR means a lot of things to a lot of people, right?
Yep.
So we do need that glossary of terms, and there's things like shooting. Jumping is redundant to shooting, but as Ben said earlier, we've been through these rules so many times in the last year that I literally can't tell you what's in the rules. Anytime somebody asks me a question, I have to open the rules and look, because I don't know if I'm going by a meeting from 6 months ago or what's actually made it in the rules. So there's things like that got missed, and that's why we went early. So exactly what you're saying, like just point out where we missed stuff, because we are way too close to the problem at this point. We know everything inside and out. We're not seeing it. Our eyes are glossing over it. So,
and there's only
we've all been involved in it for so long that shooting the gate just means shooting the gate to us. It's not. We miss things like that because we're so deep into it. We don't see it from an outside point of view. And that's,
when we start to go into our geek phrases and we start talking about the course layouts and all that stuff, shooting a gate for someone that doesn't know is trying
It's a
to
hazard.
progress in an uncontrollable manner. So you have no control over your truck because it's in the air, no tires in contact with the ground. You would be doing better if you rolled through a gate. At least the roof was in contact and you knew what was happening. So that's kind of shooting the gate is just an uncontrolled progress.
Can I flip it on you, Jeremy?
Sure.
Why do you think we were trying to address that?
So there's situations where luck be have it. People are just trying to just send it regardless of the consequence, and they're not actually driving their rig at all. They're just, it's a luck and a prayer, hope and a prayer, whatever it is, and that's not what we practice. We practice driving our truck with skill and precision. Shooting a gate is not that.
There's one other thing too. It's almost impossible to judge.
Yes, if all tires are in the air,
yeah,
the judge is, he has to make a call, and I feel for him. I judge a lot when I can, but it's when you make that call and you say no progress, that you're like, if it's questionable, I stop the clock right there because I know an argument's about to ensue, and there's no time for it because you're off the clock and there's another guy waiting to run.
Right.
But you also, as
go ahead.
you as a judge have to make that call.
Mm-hmm.
And and you, like you said, you're going to stop the clock because there's an argument. Well, you as the judge should be the defining body in the competition. You're the one that's making the call. You're the one that's watching the truck go through the gate. So if you can't make a confident, predictable call to say that was a progress or that was not, the onus is just as much on the driver that may know that gate's hard to clear and try and fluff his way through by just pinning it and saying, yeah, that was progress, and continuing on. It's like, we have to make it predictable and make it predictable and controlled, because if you're just flying through the gate, whether you're bouncing through it, rolling through it, drag, spinning around, as a judge, how do you make that call? And as a driver, how do you argue that call when the judge says, no, it wasn't a progress? So, some of those, that progress language we're working on is to try and make it predictable and controllable so that judge can make an honest call and the driver can see and not be in a debatable position and start arguments.
Right. So
Yes.
I'd like to add the perspective to it. So if you had a gate on flat ground and you had both your gates and you had a truck hovering 5 inches above it, frozen in time, it looks clean from directly behind. If you take 2 steps to the right, you're now hovering a gate, and the judge and the driver will never have the same vantage point, and also the audience. So that's why we push towards, you're physically between these 2 gates rather than up in the air, because everyone's vantage point is going to be different and you're asking for an argument.
Yeah. And as soon as that argument goes past the first 3 words, I just say, you're back on the clock, driver. Because that's the judge's protocols, right? I mean, if it's not a safety issue, just hit the clock.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy. That was perfect. I just kept seeing myself in the way I drive. I'm a gate shooter.
You wrote it for you.
I get it. Yeah. The rules are written for me. So I'll throw one out at the scale guys. So you guys are saying that you're the voice for scale. Help me wrap my mind around something. I brought a demo. So where I struggle with SORCA is when we get into defining what is a roof rack. So my scale guys, how is that a roof rack?
It's not.
The cheese grater.
That's not. That's a cheese.
That's a cheese grater.
Now, I can tell you that the non-scale competitive guys don't like them either. We just have no way to rule them out. We have no way to word it to make an actual roof rack.
No offense to the man that made it. The company, I love it. It's a dope ass, cool USA flag, go USA. it struggles to find the rule. So is that an example of gray area? Is that what an example of
That's
finding a
pretty much-
gray area?
Pretty much it's basically the gray area. It's not written what the definition of a roof rack is. So it has no shape, form, or size. So if somebody says this is a roof rack, it's bolted onto the roof. How do you define that as not being a roof rack as opposed to being a roof rack? Like, what are the qualifications? So
Right.
a lot of the rewriting of these rules is to try and get these gray areas out, make the rules as flexible as possible as a builder, but give sort of some restraints and definition to what these components are and what it is we want, because we want to be able to play fair and on an even playing field. So, we're trying to, it's really difficult. And we spent, many hours talking about this, is how do we get, how do we let people build and be creative and open things up, but also give them limitations so they're actually building something that's meaningful and is in the onus of fair play.
And I think with the roof rack example, for competition, at some point you have to accept the fact that it's never going to be completely competition. It's never going to be completely scale. It's going to be in the middle. And is it more important to have a roof rack that looks like the roof rack, or is it more important to have a defined size and weight so that there's a penalty for having the roof rack? And those are kind of the things we weigh, right? Do we care what it looks like, or do we care that it's impeding? And so that's where Sean's coming up with, you know what I mean? Like, I'm Sweden in all this. Like, we just
So
work.
would you,
like, yeah.
Would you make that cheese grater have to weigh a certain amount? Is that kind of where you're going then? Basically? Okay.
How would you weigh it at a tech table?
You can't weigh it.
Exactly. So what do? You got to make it a certain thickness, and you know what I mean? Like, it's
you have to set parameters for it. And people have to understand, and like you and I are in the same boat, like throwing in a bedroll used to get you points, or still kind of does, but the whole purpose behind awarding those points, those bonus points to lessen your scores, is because you're taking away from the performance. And the new rules have approached this in a manner that if you do this, if you add this driver who, this driver weighs, he has weight to him, so he offset the balance of your truck. And if you add another driver of equal weight, your truck is just now heavier, so you have less performance. So you get a points handicap to make up for that performance loss. But on the same token, if you add a driver and you're smart about it, and they're hollow 3D printed, you're kind of still in the same boat, but it's less weight that you're worrying about, so it's less performance. So if you're, that's the difference between knees up and head only, or whatever it is. Same with an interior. If it's Lexan, it weighs nothing. If you have a 3D interior, it has an expected weight and performance loss, because you just lost room in the truck to mount your electronics or a battery or whatnot.
So to your point earlier, Jeremy, words have meaning, and it's more important that we protect the competitive nature of the event than meet the reality in sometimes. So like, if you look at the chat right now, if you can strap something to it, it's a roof rack. If you look at my wife's Durango outside, she's got 2 bars down it that were sold to me as a roof rack. There's a lot of ways to split what a roof rack is, but for SORCA, we defined it in the rules so that everybody has at least the same impact to their truck for the points for having the hindrance, because it's really the only fair way to do it. If we literally draw you a picture of what a roof rack is, it's going to be the same one everybody uses. You know what I mean? So it's hard. There's no like perfect silver bullet there. But again, that's why we put out for feedback. Maybe there is, and nobody's mentioned it, but it's hard to write rules. We spend so much time splitting hairs and changing and going back and forth. And then we have the alpha group, and then sometimes they're like, well, that doesn't work. We're like, well, crap. So.
And what's scary is the roof rack. I mean, that's one small piece of this. Like, it goes deeper and deeper. So the word living, living rules. That sounds like it came right out of Dan's mouth. But the living rules, does that word go away then January 1st, or are they always going to be living rules open for adaptation and change? Is that the concept behind a living rule set? That
It enables it. It doesn't promise it.
okay.
So the intent is they don't change. But if we reserve the right to change if something breaks or we find a glaring issue or the sport becomes the same exact truck in every class, we did something wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or if somebody finds a loophole or a gray area that truly breaks the fairness of the sport, that needs to be fixed. Because I mean, if somebody's found something and it just completely changes the game, like allows people to run some kind of like a sporty chassis underneath a Lexan body, that's in fairness, that's not what scale off-road radio control association is about. We're about a scale truck driving through a competitive situation, not a non-scale truck like a sporty or an MOA. That's a different class altogether. It's a different set of rules, and it's a different game altogether. So if a rule truly becomes broken, it allows us to look at that rule, get some feedback on that rule, and be able to change it, and not necessarily change it immediately. Like say this, we'll give it a time frame to say, okay, this is, somebody's found this. It's not to the intent of the rules, but I mean, we've always had, that disclaimer on the old rule set that says, this not the intent of the rules. Well, there's no argument that we can give back to say that that's not right. It's my intention against your intention. It's just a statement that has no grounds for feedback. If we can't circle it, highlight it in the rules and say, this is why you can't do that. This is how the gray area in the old rules it became such a problem, because people were finding what wasn't written, and we had no way to alleviate or stop that from happening. And people were building into that, and it was ruining the concept of fair play and fair competition.
Right. So also in the past, official answers were a thing on Facebook. What wasn't in the rules was an official answer, and that person had to live by it, and he shared it with his friends. And then the new guy has the same problem, and somebody shows a screenshot of a official rule, and this gives us the ability to correct the rule rather than give an official answer. If we can't answer it by quoting the rules are wrong. So that gives us the opportunity to do that, and it should alleviate that. And at the same time, if somebody finds, like Darren was saying, if somebody finds a gray area and we put a stop to it immediately, we hope that people will stop trying to find gray areas. It will set a precedence that if you find it, we're gonna put a stop to it.
That's the military approach we took, Jeremy. We thought you might like it. We defined the battleground and said have fun, and then we put in some protective measures to demotivate folks to break it. So
I think I just wanted to jump in and say something. What you guys are trying to do is remarkable, and Dan, I think you touched on this in the beginning. Every sport, in life has a guidelines, right? Has rules, has some kind of foundation. My wife does cheerleading. There's rules there. So what you guys are doing are great, but the biggest thing, like Mike and I stand for, we were talking about social media, is people are so quick to judge. You should do it this way. You should do it that way. But nobody speaks up. Nobody submits feedback. I'm reading all these comments here on the left. How come we don't have this? How come we don't have that? You guys set up a form to get voices heard. And if you don't submit feedback, you can't improve, right? So that's a big thing about the hobby. Everybody's so quick to say, why do you do this? Why do you do? But nobody sends an email. Nobody says, this is why I feel that way. So it's hard to change a foundation or build upon something without feedback if it's negative or positive, and that's a big thing in the industry, social media, so.
You don't get to bitch about the president if you don't vote. So you've got to be a part of it. You got to get out there. Yep.
So on our side of it, those forums, understand that there's 6 of us that have had about 100 different complaints since our last meeting. And when we go into a meeting to get things happen, I mean, we're not going to remember them all. So if you could fill out the forms and turn them in, we have a baseline and a project list that we can prioritize and break it down into meetings and make it happen. But to remember everything we had in Messenger and text message and complaints in 75 different groups is going to be, it's never going to get done unless you put it down on paper for us so we can stay organized and get it done.
Yeah. That, and it quantifies the problem too, because we can look through the list, and if we see one guy bickering about one certain item, but it's only the one guy, you know, it's like that, you know, 90% of the people in, you know, are grasping this and they're enjoying it, and they're looking at it as like a good refreshing look at rules and stuff like that. And then there's the 10% that actually speak up and whine or complain about certain things. And if it's only the 10%, or there's only that one remark about it, you know, it's just somebody trying to get their way in one instance. Like maybe they did something wrong, they found it, you know, maybe it's not a big item, maybe it's a small item, but at least it puts it in a quantified list, so that if we've got, you know, 100 remarks about something about the body, then we can address, we can say, hey, look, this is really a problem. It's really broken the rules. We can fix that. You know, whereas the small things, they'll sort themselves out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So real fast too on that subject. I just pulled it up. There's 6.7 thousand people in the SORCA page. We've been doing YouTube. We've been sharing on Facebook feeds. AJ made an awesome post. Hey guys, put your feedback in about, you know, all that good stuff. We have exactly 100 feedback forms right now. Some of them are duplicates, and I've gone through, you know, quickly, just scrolling through. At a glance, 30 to 40% of it's positive. There's just some clarification things. And then there's, you know, maybe 50 people that have found stuff, and about 10 to 20% are just like, I hope you die in a fire. You know what I mean? So it's just the internet. That's how it works. But we're happy that people are putting in feedback. But I don't want to mix my life with my art, my hobby, my work life with my hobby too much, but data drives what we do. And the data states that the bulk of people are content with the rules. And my personal handling of things with people has really just been confusion. And I would say 60 to 70% of my engagements with folks have been positive after the confusion's resolved. So it's not, they're not perfect. We made mistakes. That's why we put them out early. We need feedback, right? Like we said that out the gate, but it's a vocal minority, a percentage, right? And they have valid complaints and they have valid concerns, and we're listening. But if you don't put it in the form, we're not going to go through it. So everybody I help, I also give them the link to the form and say, now go put what we fixed in the form so I don't forget. Because if you don't, I'm going to forget, because I've got so many messages coming in here, I can't see straight. So it's our way of saying, you know, help us help you. But if it's not constructive, it's going to get lost in the noise.
And we can't drive the bus if you don't tell us where to go.
But I think it was a great attempt at extending a hand and yet keeping yourself organized, because like you said, you're never going to remember all the stuff, where it's coming from and whatnot. So take the time and fill out the form, and it's pinned on the Facebook page, correct?
It's
right
of all the updates we've done, it's the only one that's pinned, so you can't lose it.
You can't lose it. Now, I will give a pro tip to everyone that wants to print their own personal set of pages, to run out to your local supply center and get extra paper and fresh ink, because I think I had to refill my ink in the printer twice trying to spit this out. This is big. And I had to print 2 of them. I dreaded it.
We still owe it a glossary of terms. And the other thing too to keep in mind is, if you look at it, there used to be multiple documents, which I found real confusing when I started in the hobby. They're all in one document now. The course points are not separate. They are in the actual document. It's a one self-contained document. It's the only source of truth. And you go to that. And we made bigger words. We spaced them out. It's easier to read, and we use full sentences. So the content is really not that much more. There's giant pictures, there's bigger words, there's the other rule set included in it, and it's just kind of stretched out a little bit so that it's easier to get through. And if you have the digital version, Darren did a fantastic job of using his fancy Adobe Pro. You can click on anything in the index and it'll take you to that section, and there's a return to top page at the bottom of every page too.
It's very iPhone friendly. So if you're out doing something, you can look it up instantly. You can use word search on it. It's a fantastic way to do a
Reference.
standard operating procedure or an SOP guidebook. That's a great way if you can search it and you can nail down to what you need.
I want to kind of blow everyone's mind now and try and help put everyone at ease as we painted this picture for a new look at SORCA. There is a human side to SORCA. The next thing is, I'm going to trip you up. Who has got the built truck? Where is the 2023
Don has a C1
living rule built truck? And I want to blow some minds and show people that it really didn't change much. It still looks like a RC car. So we don't have one here with us tonight?
This is a 2022, but it's still legal. I need to cover my shock hoops in the back, but it's still legal. And in running the SORCA, I really haven't looked at points. I don't have time. But
minus the scale points, that truck is ready to compete.
Absolutely. Other than the rear shock hoops, I'm going to have to cover those. But other than that, nothing changed. Body width, everything is still dead on legal from 2022.
Mine are the same way, except for I'm going to rebuild all of them because we made it where the rules are way more open now, and I've got way too much weight and way too much body. My trucks are way too big now.
Yeah. I'll be rebuilding all three like I do every year, but it's a lot looser platform once you understand the rectangle. And that's something we should cover in this is the rectangle.
Thank you.
That was one of the questions earlier. Somebody mentioned
everybody's worried about triangles, rectangles, squares, and
we should be worried about Sean's beautiful Unimog, which is perfectly seen with people.
This is one of the things that we've got asked a lot about the cab forward or Unimog bodies. This is if you can see that, this is my old one. I've had this around since 2010. It's a pig. It is getting rebuilt right now, but for the most part, we have, when we talked about sliders, and if you notice, this cab isn't in the center. It's still going to be legal. It's 4.5. It's actually 4 3/4 from the plastic from here to the top. Sliders. I can see my finger in there. And they're actually with the flat part plate. It's kind of hard to see that it actually, the bumper does actually, when it's at rest.
Yeah, and here's mine that I ran last, this one this year. Now, this is not right now class 1 as the 2023 rules dictate, because my bumper is the old as much as the width, but I am only like maybe a 1/4 inch. I have to make this bumper maybe a 1/4 inch wider on each sides. And my sliders, I mean, the slider requirement before in the old rules was to the back of the cab. So literally I could have put a slider on there that was like that. I went and extended it back, but for 2023, maybe I'll have to go back to there. But those are things that, have come up. We're reviewing on how the proportions work, because there has been issues with it, but my sliders do fit within the wheel alignment way it works. But this was what I ran in class 1 last year, or this last season, because our comp season is wrapped up now. But that's what I ran, and it's 99% legal for next 2023. I just, like I said, have to make changes to my bumper, make changes to my slider if needed, and I'm good to go.
So that brings up a point I'd like everybody to know too, is that as SORCA committee, we got to rebuild our trucks too. I mean, we didn't write these to keep our rule or keep our trucks legal. We wrote them to be fair, equal competition, and we got to rebuild ours as well. It's not to pick on anybody, and rebuilding all of our trucks is going to take a very, very small fraction of time compared to the time we've put into arguing over these rules.
I need 3 bumpers and then I'm and cover my shock hoops and I'm good.
Okay.
So one of the
So-
questions you were talking about shock hoops, somebody just chimed in and said, what was the reasoning behind that? So if you look in the comments right now, a little discussion going on, real
For
life versus
Scooter Scott,
bobbin beds. And, so, somebody asked, what is the reasoning behind covering?
So
for
two
Scooter
things.
Scott to sell box.
Yeah, we want him to be able to sell all his boxes. We got a huge multi-million-dollar deal with. No, we don't. But the C1, more people argue that it should be more scale, but we're trying to balance the fact that, let's be honest, nobody's ever actually built scale and been competitive in SORCA. They've used scale as an excuse to bend the rules and get away with things by quoting YouTube videos or 1932 documentaries of something that one person had in the entire world. And they're like, look, it's scale. We had to define what each thing is so that that unquantifiable, qualifiable argument became quantifiable. And that's part of the problem, is not everybody's going to like that, right? So covering the shock hoops is simple for C1 because it makes it a little more scale. It adds a little more effort so that you can't have a giant hole in your bed or anything like that. But really, that was the intent with C1. You don't have to cover it in 2 or 3. Things pop through the vehicles. But to argue also on the scale side, C1's intent is a truck that you would buy and drive down the road from a dealer. Most trucks you buy don't have shock hoops busting through the things unless you're at Jimmy's used Honda dealership or Billy Bob's down on the Mississippi South where he custom, you know what I mean? Like you can't define that. Certain things are street legal that you would not believe. So we can't go by those anymore. We have to say what things are because words have meaning.
So in the past, I received drop bed points for this, and I've built them exactly the same that had the toolbox non-functional where it didn't open. And realistically, I've only dropped about a third, maybe a quarter of my bed. So why should I receive points? It's not dropped. It's not. Should we require that you only have to drop a quarter percent of your bed or 25% of your bed to get the points? And I made these huge inner fenders to cover my shock hoops, and I made the fuel cell to cover my servo that's going to poke up in there when I articulate. So there's not much bed left to drop, but I needed the 3 points. So it's
mine is almost a whole bed minus the shock hoops.
Yeah. So without rewriting the rules the way we did, you really only had to have a tiny little square dropped, and it was a gray area. There was no definition of what a drop bed is and the size it has to be. And then we had people building SUVs with a tiny little drop behind it and calling that a drop bed behind their SUV. I mean, there was no definition, and it was a huge gray area. So we had to do something.
Okay. What we're going to do is we usually try to keep the show around an hour. So I think I want to give everybody a closing statement on the SORCA board to give me a pitch. What would it take to get a new person out there? You can address 2 things in your closing statement. Get the new person to come that's on the fence about trying a SORCA. And number 2, in your closing statement, the old hats that have been coming back and forth to SORCA events for year after year, try and convince them it's not that big of a deal. And the only other personal question I had, I think some people had some misunderstanding on wives. Personal note to all the wives out there, turn down the volume real quick. How much money do you think an average class 1 comp truck is? Is there a dollar figure on what it would take to build a comp worthy truck? Is there a number you would tell somebody what you're prepared to invest?
This is bougie. This has like $175 hand wound motor, every fancy thing you can buy in it. This is like an $1,800 truck. You don't need to spend that though.
Okay.
I comped with like a $600 truck until I knew what I wanted, and then I went nuts. It's, you know what I mean? You can show up with a stock truck if you don't care about points and just want to drive, you know?
Okay. So Jeremy, do you have anything else that you'd like to address before we give these guys their closing statement?
Yes. To all the people out there, when you're building a truck for the rule set, read the rules, read the rules again, and reread the rules again. Don't start buying and building until you've read these rules at least 3 times and you understand the concept that they're trying to portray here, especially with erectals. You have to. I'm telling you, it's a thing. Like, it's already been that. But you have to understand that you're building a truck based on zones of input. It is your input. So you're deciding a lot of the measurements, and no 2 trucks are going to be the same, which builds a lot of creativity. If you want a 13-inch wheelbase, you're going to have to adjust those rectangles to fit what you're doing. And you're going to have to adjust your sliders, or you're going to have to reel in your wheelbase so you don't have to buy more parts, and you can actually just maybe buy a link set and you're good to go. So read the rules, reread the rules, and read them again before you build. And do it by class, not all together. It's a lot if you try and do it all together. That's all I got.
Hey, Mike, is it okay if before we do the last closing thing, I did have one thing I wanted to kind of bring up on that.
Please.
Just for anybody who joined late, we had an announcement at the beginning. We are listening to feedback. We are going to take the point values of 2022 and merge them into the point wording of 2023. We haven't gone through that yet, but that we may give them the same points, we may not, but we're gonna kind of meet in the middle, if not all the way. So I hope that kind of makes everybody a little happier. The other thing is, because we're doing that, it's going to take a little longer than next Monday. We might need 2 weeks to kind of get through all that, but it is, I think, what you guys are kind of looking for. It'll help with a lot of the drop bid conversations and some of the, maybe giving some custom points back, makes everybody happy. Like, this is about everybody. It's not about us. So it's a sport for all of us, and we are listening. And I think it's important to hear that. So the other thing is we know the C1, C2, C3 rectangle is the same right now. That was supposed to loosen as it went down the line. And we're going to fix that. We haven't announced what that will be because we're still talking. We missed it. Our alpha group missed it. It happened. So we're fixing that. And then the other thing I wanted to kind of bring up too, and this is actually really cool, in my opinion. Have you guys heard of Def Customs? They're awesome drivers. They make custom bodies. They do a bunch of good stuff. They had a lot of questions on the rules. And what I didn't know is ESL and ASL don't actually use the same words for everything, right? ASL cuts a lot of cruft out and it's straight to the point. So it's harder for them to understand the rules. And I guess ESL can kind of hear it better and their grammar's better. And it makes it a lot better for them to understand the rules. So they offered up, when the rules are done, when we get like the next version or 2 out and we say they're good, right? Like when we say, hey, we're not changing these anymore, we're sorry. I'm going to sit down with them again, because iPhone has a really cool feature that if you talk, it'll close caption on their end. So we went through the whole rule set over iPhone and talked between the 2 of us, thanks to technology. And they now have a full understanding of the rules, and it clarified a lot. And we're going to, on the version that we release, once they're comfortable with it, we're going to put in big, bold letters, hit them up for anybody who's hearing impaired, and they will translate. They're going to be our ambassadors for the deaf community. So that was really huge of them. Don't hit them up yet, but they did volunteer, and that's a shout out to them. We really appreciate it.
Well, that's awesome. All around, totally awesome. Pete, do you have anything you'd like to say to them before? Because we'll probably give them a chance to wrap up here.
No, I'm good. I'm happy you guys came on, and I look forward to the future releases, and keep doing what you're doing. I really support what you guys are trying to do, and like we mentioned earlier, it's for the love of the hobby. I mean, we could only improve, and feedback's important, positive, negative. So keep doing what you're doing. You guys are doing a great thing for the hobby, and keep it going.
I think the only thing I will add is stepping on what Jeremy said. It was the same message that Dan has been trying to push through to me all week long. Every time I spoke to Dan, it was read, and read. Don't read what's not there. Read what is there. Don't cloud it. Don't add words. Read what is there. and don't overcomplicate it. And I think the reassuring thing was getting you all to hold up a truck from last year and realize that it's not too far off the mark. Do not panic. Take the words from Jeremy Kilburn. Jeremy, what he said, read it. Don't buy anything until you read it, and read it again.
Well, and I think I want to add to that. You just made me think
Yep.
of something. The first comp I did, you know, right like Jeremy said to his point, you know, trying to cram the rules, you know, week before the comp, going through the rules, skimming, and look what happens. My motor blows up. Dan, to your point, Jeremy had that thing out in less than 5 minutes and swapped the motor. So that goes to show you about the community. And I know there's a lot of people that are probably new that haven't comped before. So to Jeremy's point and everybody on the board, you know, take the time, read the rules, get familiar with it. Because, you know, I did that mistake. You know, it was a week out. I'm going through the rules, trying to build a truck quickly, scale points. And, you know, that's not the right approach, you know, but now I know a lot more. But, you know, Dan's point, there are people in the community that will help you on site. And, you know, swapping motors to some people is no big deal. And that's what makes the hobby fun and positive, you know, and what we're trying to do is keep it positive. So.
Agreed.
Good.
I hate to do it. I hate to do it, Mike. I have an alibi. If you haven't attended a SORCA event, there's a fantastic video series by Bill Riddle that walks through his experiences in a first-person point of view of how he's running that course. And he has a monologue over top of it that says where he's made mistakes or where he, you know, he's experiencing something going on during that. Like, watch videos, go watch an event with, you know, if you have anxiety about it, go watch an event, see how it's run, see if you can shadow somebody before you actually put tire to the ground. It's helpful.
Good point. Good point. So I guess I will end with a thank you. Obviously, I think someone made the statement about glossing over things, so I can only put myself in your shoes and understand you guys get tripped over your glossing over stuff. You're not looking at the same things that everybody else is seeing for the first time. So I can appreciate that's hard. So thank you for pinning that form at the top of the Facebook page and take from the RC community. That's one way to shut them down. Take their input. Doesn't mean you're going to use it, but at least if you make the effort, if you have valid input, take the time to fill out the form. They've given you a way to communicate with them. And that was the message for tonight, is that they are approachable. And I thank you all. So we'll start from Dan and work, or no, let's go backwards. We'll start with Darren and go back and say your goodbyes and go from there.
All right. Well, I just wanted to go back to what we were talking about, how much a truck costs to run. This is my class 1, as I showed you before, that I ran the last season. I took first place in 8 comps that we do, about 20 members that comp monthly and that. This is actually SCX10 rails that are flipped front to back, some RC 4-wheel drive leafs, and some axles. The total content value is probably about $600 Canadian. So take, you know, 75% of that. And that's how much I've invested. Of course, now I've hand built my body. That's all styrene build. So you can build styrene, you know, it doesn't have to be the top of the line stuff. Get out there, run it, see what needs to be improved. We're all there. You know, if we see a dynamic for your truck that's like, you know, always, you know, pitching over and stuff like that, we'll give you, you know, pointers like stiffen up your shocks, or your, you know, add some spring rate, drop your body down, get the weight down and stuff like that. So it doesn't cost any more than, you know, it doesn't have to cost any more than you want to put into it to have fun. So that's another thing, is like, you know, this is basically all recycled parts from what I had around, but essentially about $600 that I've put into this. Second thing is that I know we didn't really sort of get into it, but I think in general, there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction. This little piece of paper here that you look at, it's not a confining parameter. Like that rectangle there doesn't mean you have to fit your thing inside of a shoebox. This is what we want to see filled up. You can go over and above that. You can go outside of that, above that, length longer than that. We just want to see that there's actually something there that would be a reference point for keeping fair play. So build it wider, build it longer, build it taller. It doesn't matter. So long as you meet that minimum requirement, you can go over and above that. It's not a shoebox that you have to fit your truck into. And I guess last thing, you know, that I say as far as local comps, in my comps, I will sit there and I will be judging you and timing you. But if you're novice, I'm teaching you every step of the way, how to make a gate, how to drive your truck, how to, you know, approach the lines. Think about, you know, instead of, you know, most people just go, okay, that was this gate, that's the next gate. It's like, that's not the best. A straight line isn't the best route. You have to get your truck set up for that. So let's take this route, go in here and approach it at this angle. You know, I'll coach novice drivers and even intermediate drivers, you know, when they're at the comps and that, even guys that are, you know, challenging my points and even above me. It's like, hey, look, you know, there's a, you know, I help my group, because if they get better, that means the whole comp gets better and we get better as a group, and then we can go to nationals and we can be good at nationals as well. So you learn at your local level. And also when I went to nationals for the first time in 2017, I met, you know, all these guys, and, you know, they're like, you know, everyone was helping out. You know, it's not like you against the world. It's you with the world at nationals and at local comps.
Bravo. Sean?
I just like to say, you know, for the new guys, just come out, get a truck, come out, have fun. That's how I got into it. I mean, I was a racer before I started rock crawling. I built a truck out of some 3/16 rod and just RC 4-wheel drive R1 tranny or R2, whatever the hell it was, the loud, noisy, low reduction, and some HPI tires. And, you know, and I started asking questions. They looked at it and they're like, ah, it's pretty cool. You know, it's kind of heavy, and you need to maybe do this. I just went out and, you know, hung out with them. There was an RC crawler at that time, everybody in the Colorado section, they would post up where they were going to be. And I just started going to the comps and just started building and listening and driving, and how I got to where I'm at. I just do it for fun. I mean, it's fun for me. The competitive side is not a big deal to me. That's why I say just come out and have fun. Grab a truck, grab an RTR, whatever it is, come have fun. For the old guys that have been around a while, I hope what we're doing with the rules really sets in, and I hope that we're doing a good enough job. I've been, like I said, I've been on the board a long time, and this rule set is probably the most concise that we've had in years. And like Ben said, we would argue amongst ourselves more than anything and hurt feel goods and get butt hurt and whatever, and people would leave and people would come back. You know, I think the smaller group we have now, we're really trying to cater to make everybody happy. And I know this launch hasn't been smooth sailing, but with the living rule set, we're going to fix it all. And we're listening to everything you guys are saying. Everything. I mean, as long as you say it, and as long as you send us feedback and you're not giving us, I think the ones that give us the hard time, even when they give us a hard time, we're still listening. You know, I get really pissy, but I'm on the other side of the screen. I don't, I really think I try to be very diplomatic with people. And if you're on the Facebook page, you probably see that I answer a lot of the questions. Ben and I answer a lot of the questions. Sometimes I'm not right, and sometimes I am right. You know, most time I am right, but sometimes I'm not right. Sometimes even I misinterpret what we've written. So I think with the new rules, I think that's really going to help us not be wrong as far as we go. And if we are, then we can come back and fix it. We can change that. So just come out and have fun. That's all it's about. Have fun.
That's a great message. That's been the common denominator through all of you so far. There's been this core message of about having fun. It is a hobby. Do not lose focus on the fact that 99% of the people in the RC community come to this hobby to step away from the real life chaos and come to a place that's supposed to be fun. So I like that, Sean. Thank you. Get out there, give it a try. Come out, just try, have fun. Ben, what do you got, my friend?
The main thing I wanted to cover that we didn't was the rectangle. Darren touched on it a little bit, but in the hardest part of reading the new rule set is reading the new rule set without remembering the old rule set. So when you're looking at your bumper width in class 2 and you didn't pinch your front of your body, the bumper doesn't have to be the size of the body. It has to be the size of the rectangle, which is actually it's a trapezoid anyway, but I lost that argument. So everything doesn't reference back to any other part of the truck but the rectangle. So it's hard to read the new rules and forget the old rules while you're reading it. So a lot of the people that we've dealt with have concerns and issues, and they're angry about the way the rules are. And once we break that barrier and get them to forget what the old rules say and explain that the new rules do not say that, like class 1, everybody should be super happy that major body mods is gone. It's no longer a thing. Make it what you want it to be. We're trying to make a freedom for people to build what they want. Nobody's really noticed that class 3, you can dig and rear steer on the same course. They've been asking for that for years. We gave it to them. Nobody's noticed. There's a lot of things in the rules that we gave on. And like I said, we're half scale and we're half competition. So the competition guys have some wins. The scale guys have some wins. There's going to be some things that you're going to have to accept to get the things that you want, because this isn't for one person. It's for the entire world at this point. And we have we have one of our members is not even in the United States, and we had another one that wasn't in the United States. So it's no longer just a national rule set. It's gone worldwide. The other portion that everybody missed to mention on show up to a comp if you're worried. I don't know if I can count the amount of people, and I guarantee you everybody in this video has handed their radio to a new guy. So before I tell a guy your truck needs work to perform, I'll hand him my truck. Here you go. Go drive this. If you want yours to be like this, these are the steps you can take. These are the free mods. I push a lot of people towards Harley Designs. He teaches you when a new model comes out, here's all the free things you can do to make it perform better. So before I tell a new guy that just dropped $350, before I tell him it's not worth it, you need to go spend more money, follow somebody and learn all the tricks that you can do for free. And if you've got time, we'll do them right here. And usually all of us have extra parts, extra trucks. Like that guy walks out of there as the new guy with a better performing truck than he did when he showed up. And he got to drive the trucks that are winning the competitions before he has to make that decision. I mean, I personally carry an RCR to every comp in case a guy shows up with a 6-7-year-old. It's an RCR, and I've got the endpoint set down so he cannot strip the trans if he's jacking it from forward to reverse. He can beat on that thing and he cannot kill it. And the entire comp, he's got a 5,000 milliamp battery to just screw around while his dad's learning about the hobby. So it's a great place to be, and it's my favorite portion of the hobby because I'm into off-road racing, carpet racing. I've been in a lot of it, and the scale world is by far the friendliest to the new guy that will absolutely hand you his radio
100%.
And teach you what's going on. So,
and where are you from? I don't know if I got that in the opening bio.
Washington State.
Wow. Okay. I'm not driving that anytime soon. I'm from Philly, So all you football fans, Eagles, go Birds, fly Eagles,
That
fly.
flag down.
And I'm lit up red tonight. Does anybody have a World Series score? I'm missing the Phillies right now. So
There's no cheerleaders in baseball, so I don't really.
anybody want to get me a Phillies score? Be greatly appreciated. Dan, my man, kind of become the point of this spear this week and taken point and helped us coordinate and get this little group together. You are a man of great talents, and it seems to be very useful. The computer, well, I'm just going to call you a nerd again. It is very useful to help tie this all together. So I know, sir, that you have some parting words for us.
0 to 0.
Thank you.
So I don't have too much to add except for I've literally done this with my buddy Joe. He's a phenomenal indoor track racer, dirt racer, etc. He wanted to try crawling. I literally programmed up one of my trail trucks, set it up on a separate radio, and then had him compete with it. If I literally brought a truck for him, all he had to do was put his finger on the trigger and go. And then I spotted for him, and then I had him watch Bill Riddle spot me so he could see what driving is. And I would say find yourself a mentor. My first comp ever, I showed up with a truck that I bought off the Facebooks, and it was a Carbon Works truck, and I had no idea what it was. I love it now, but the Kevin Martin, I showed up at that comp, and he took me under his wing and helped me with everything and answered all my dumb questions. Looking back, the questions I had were just phenomenally stupid, and he took care of me. So find yourself somebody like that. And Bill and I now, Bill Riddle is fantastic. And if you watch any of Bill's videos, you'll probably hear me chastising him in the background. Bill's one of my favorite people. And he spots for me, which I think is huge. Having somebody spot for you in an event is just absolutely useful. Bill doesn't really need spotters, so I usually just haze him while he drives. He drives better when he's angry, but having a battle buddy is so useful. And then just putting yourself out there and becoming friends with people and just enjoying the people. It's less about the trucks, it's more about the people for me. I think the trucks and the rules are a byproduct of just having a good time. And if you have questions, hit me up. I've spent more time. I judge at all events. I spend half of my time fixing people's trucks. I've handed receivers out of my box. Like I will literally, they'll bring their trucks to the event and be like, what do you think of this? And I'll be like, well, I'm not gonna tell you how to do it, but this is what I would do. And here's why. And I show them my truck, show them their truck, but I then tell them, but I need to know how you drive. So here's my truck, drive it. Do you like it? And it's just being engaged and not being worried to put yourself out there. The other thing I'll say is there's a lot of people trying to help people get in the hobby. Homestead RC is what I was doing, trying to get that done. I had to put that on the burner so I could argue with these fine gentlemen for the last year. And once we get these rules done, I'll be bringing that back, and I will be abusing the fact that I know the rules inside and out so that Homestead hasn't gone away. The team drivers we have are helping everybody. Every comp, if you see somebody in a Homestead shirt, they will help you learn the rules, and they will hand you trucks, and they will do everything they can. So that we're trying to make sure that you guys understand and can run, right? And don't worry about points. Worry about learning, worry about people, and then worry about points when you want to build your truck. You know what I mean?
And I really think that this is the same message that we're getting across the country. I know you're talking about your personal experiences with the local clubs that you attend, but I think that this has to be the same across the country. We met the fellows from Team Garage Hack, what they're doing out in Colorado. They came to New Jersey a couple weeks ago, and the same thing. I mean, the hospitality, the patience, the understanding, the support that you got. I want to move to Colorado and constantly wheel with these guys. The way they,
nice.
Oh yeah, well yeah, and Jeremy, I'm just gonna call it right now. I see what you're doing, dude. Don't think that we're not noticing the flex with this fisheye. I don't know what you did to your camera lens, but this is not the normal Jeremy. I have such a wide angle shot now, so you can show off your inventory. It used to be like 4 or 5 trucks behind Jeremy, but Jeremy has gone to a wide-eyed fish lens so he can flex, and it is a collection we can drool over. So thank you for bringing that to us tonight, Jeremy. Thank you for
my camera did it all by itself. When
no.
I first came today, I swear. It did not. It's never been like this. You could never see the rift.
I'm calling BS.
Of course it did.
Oh man, now what a great group of guys. This kind of jabbing and heckling, this is what you're going to get. And yeah, and I will only ditto what everybody's been saying about Bill Riddle, one of the most respected long distance drivers, hardcore comp drivers, and nicest guys you will ever meet. I am super excited to go find it out on YouTube, these videos that Jeremy referenced. I think it's a great way to get an FPV view and somebody, you know, with commentary and pointing out the do's and the don'ts. It's a fantastic idea. You know, for the longest time, I'd hear people talking about lines, you know, find the line. I'm like looking for freaking chalk on the rocks somewhere. Like, where the hell is this goddamn line that everybody's talking about? I don't see no lines. But getting the verbiage and understanding what people are looking for, it is important to understand, you know, what a SORCA guy is looking at when they approach that course. And it's fantastic that the judges are pointing out the route to take. That is a huge help. And I think that's also across the country. It's got to be the same way. Why not, you know, go this way, think outside the box. So thank you to everyone.
Think outside the rectangle.
The rectal.
Rectal.
Outside the rectal.
But listen, it was fun. I've been looking forward to this all week long. I can't thank you all for taking your time on a Saturday night and sharing, you know, some of what went into making the 2023 living rule set. So thank you from the Rad Show. And that's it for me, guys. Pete, do you want to close out on anything, or are we going to close down from here?
Well,
Do you have any?
Yeah, we'll go over a couple
We'll
things.
close them out. We'll
Yeah.
say goodbye to all of you, and we'll take care of our housekeeping. Or you're welcome to hang out, whatever you want.
I got to run. My wife just got home from Chicago about an hour ago. Well, 2 hours ago, and I told her this be an hour. So I appreciate everything, boys, but I got to go pay my dues.
The check is in the mail, Dan. Thank you for attending.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Yeah, thank you for paying for all of this. We appreciate you sponsoring all of SORCA. So no. All right, thanks, guys.
It will bounce.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you guys for attending. Thank you everybody for joining. And like we mentioned earlier, check us out on Facebook. We'll post the recap tomorrow. Also on Instagram, we got a great guest coming up next week. Thank you to the SORCA board for joining us. And we'll talk soon, guys. Thank you, SORCA. And keep doing what you're doing. Keep the hobby going strong and positive vibes.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Pete.
You were very welcome. Go Phillies.
All right. What a great group of people, man.
Jeremy, what do you think? I mean, I think I'm not going to say anything. You go first.
What do I think about?
Did it go
What
okay?
just happened for the last 2 hours?
Yeah, the process,
Okay.
all that. Besides me going to be in divorce court.
Yeah. I think it was rather helpful and putting some faces to some names on Facebook and some personality helps people understand, and it de-escalates some of their anger issues or their misunderstandings. I think tonight was very productive for your channel and for SORCA. Good
You
job.
sound different than you did on Monday. When I talked to you early in the week when these things first got posted.
Yeah. So I read the rules, and I reread the rules. I talked to you, and I still had some questions and some fog, and then I reread them the third time, it clicked. And then, you know, paying attention to some of their answers in some local chats and you know, directly with Dan, it unclouded, and I dumpstered all the previous rule sets. I've been dealing with these rules since 2012, and it just dumped all that out of my head and just said, start over. Look at this as it's brand new, and it really cleared my vision up on it. Not my truck needs work, but you know, it just, you know, I understand what needs work.
And like you said, work, not money. There's a difference.
Yes.
I
can change that truck with no money. I just need to, I mean, simple things, right? So don't spend money. If you have one of these fancy TGH bumpers and it's fixing with a curve up, just freaking flip it over and you're down an eighth of an inch and it brings you in the spec. Something that simple, think it through before you purchase through. And save yourself some time and aggravation.
See, that's fantastic. And I think some of that got in people's way and the hostility came out quickly on. And I think the other thing might be a valid point is that a lot of the same people are the same problem child. He's like the same gripes or bitches are coming from like the same 5-10 people in majority, but it's not across the board factual, but
and there's 4 or 5 people. Just fill out the form and voice. They're giving you the ability to voice it in a professional manner, be professional and voice it in a professional way, and it'll get addressed in a professional way.
Well, and I think that's something good they did, you know, because like we said earlier, you know, with any kind of organization, group, live chat, even the Rad Show, without feedback, I mean, I remember you mentioned points to us, you know, without feedback, you can't grow. And it's negative, constructive, and, you know, they provided that platform, that outlet for people to voice their opinion. So if people are not going to voice their opinion and just complain, then, you know, nothing's going to get done or change, you know, for the good of the hobby, right?
Yep.
So
a learning organization is a growing organization because the more knowledge they have, the more capacity they have. So it's a simple fundamental. It's why everybody does, you know, you buy a Twix at Rural Farms and you swipe your card and they send you an email. How'd you like your Twix? I mean, that's how they grow and they learn.
Yeah. The Phillies are winning, Mike, by the way.
Well, thank you. I just got a message on that. And I am sorry, Peter, I did want to address the Rccaraction tonight. That was all my notes. We just ran out of time. It's a great article in there that you did. Congrats again. Add another one to the tally for Peter Lundberg.
Yeah, I mean, you know, looking at this issue today, I mean,
it's fucking huge.
You know, for all the people that don't subscribe, I mean, you know, seeing your truck in the magazine, that's probably all I can show. But, you know, going through it, going through it, you know, it's just a great issue. I always look forward to the gear guide because it's got over 500 products in it. I mean,
you're
a lot of
still
friendly names. What's that?
It's still Mike. You're still on the air.
Yeah, we're not.
We are?
Yeah.
I thought you closed it. Oh my God.
You still got a live audience here. So, you know,
the red button up in the corner says live.
Yeah.
I literally thought we logged off. Holy crap.
So, you know, the gear guide is a good issue because, you know, it really showcases all the, you know, throughout the year, the hot products and, you know, look at Mike. So I knew we were still live, Jeremy. So that's why I was.
Oh my God.
I know he didn't know we were still on when he dropped the F-bomb.
That's all right. I just have to click that button.
I thought it was just us three just sitting here.
No.
So,
we might have to delete the rest.
So, you know, the gear guide's a good issue because, you know, it really showcases all the great vendors throughout the year. And like I said, over 500 products in there. So it's definitely Rccaraction put together a nice package there. So definitely an exciting issue. What else, Mike? Treal dropped some new products. That was good. Oh.
He's still recovering.
Yeah.
I honestly can't believe this. Well, since we're all still here, we got to recover. I got to recover. All right, so look, I'll reach in Santa's toolbox here. So this is pretty cool. 1/24 scale. Try and go out of the light where we won't get a glare. Powerhobby dropped a 1/24 scale aluminum trailer for you micro guys that want a trailer to pull around. Dude, now you have the Traxxas one that I just packed away because that was out on loan, so I had to get all the stuff put back in the bag so Dreamer can pick it up in the morning. But this one's aluminum, tiny little guy, comes with the bumper mount and the hitch. So cool little option, and the matte green is pretty cool. I think with some battle scars, it will only get better. So great little option here from Powerhobby if you're looking to tote around a trailer with your micro. And something else I was excited to try was their Powerhobby Smart Servo, a programmable micro servo. I'm holding that upside down. This little guy will find a place to put this. Jeremy, do you want to address the issue here with Treal and this transmission and the FMS FCX24? Is it that simple that we are not putting the stock gears back in the aluminum Treal trans? Is that it?
So what people try to constantly do is mix environments with Treal stock parts, other manufacturers' parts. Like, people do it all the time because we build custom stuff, and it's a minority that does these crazy things. So the Treal transmission case is designed for these stock plastic gears that come in the FMS FCX24. The Treal steel gear set is a direct replacement for those plastic gears, so they're the same thickness and dimension. What FMS offered was a metal gear set for their own plastic transmission, and they took some liberty on the width of those gears. 2 gears on the primary, the shifting fork gear, and they're just a smidge too wide. So what somebody did was they tried to put the FMS metal gear set into the Treal case, and then they complained that the Treal case was improperly made. And the problem is actually the metal gear set from FMS is a little wider than it probably should be.
Well, and the thing is you know, so I saw that post. I'm at a cheerleading competition, and you know, I'm reading this post, and you know, I saw your comment, which was the right thing to write. And you know, it goes back to the, you know, the negativity. So I wrote a comment saying, did you email Treal? You know, your first step, you know, you look at mindsets of people, right? So to your point, you're trying to do something that it wasn't made for, right? So it doesn't work. So what's your first attack? You blast the company on social media, or do you email them and say, hey, listen, I got your product, it's not compatible with this, why? So instead of doing that, the right thing to do, I would think, you go to a group that has nothing to do with Treal transmission cases, but it's because it's their gears that don't fit, and you screenshot, you know, one of the lead person that respond. I mean, I just thought that was totally the wrong, unprofessional, not the way to handle things. I mean, you put one of the lead directors' messages in the forum. I mean, you know, it's just, it goes to show you the people that are, you know, one bad thing happens and the company is horrible, you know. And Jeremy is for the people watching, Jeremy is one of the big technical customer support people and helps out a lot of people with Treal issues. And, you know, to see that kind of negativity, and, you know, it goes to show you, A, how long these people been in the hobby, and B, what their mindset is, because that's totally the wrong way to approach a problem like that.
Unfortunately, it's not just this hobby.
There's another issue that I'd like to bring up since you brought the transmission up.
But Peter, it's not just this hobby, it's the mentality of social media, and it's right away put the company on blast. And like, did you even think to email them or reach out to them? What was the customer's response? It's automatically find a way to go blast them on social media.
And a lot of people don't realize probably most of your complex problems or interference problems or something like that, when you send that email to Treal, if they don't already have an archived answer for that problem, it's probably coming to me or another team driver, and it's going to get answered because we already tested these parts and the fitment of these parts. So we know a lot of the issues that could come across if you try and mix brands. There's ecosystems. Traxxas has an ecosystem. Look at their new 24 or their new TRX-4m. You'll see an ecosystem. They have a battery ecosystem. They have a proprietary plug. It's what they do. Their aftermarket parts are going to be proprietary as well, and they're designed to fit each other. If you try and put a Treal wheel on that truck, I don't know until I get my hands on one, but if it does fit, I'll tell you. And if it doesn't fit, I'll tell you how to make it fit, or I'll just tell you it's just not compatible. But we do that a lot I do this a lot. That's why I have such a large collection, is I'm able to do that, take the time. And there's an interesting post on these FCX 24s with our link kits, or Treal's link kits, not supplying the hardware to mount the shocks, the stock shocks. And yes, you can put the Treal shocks on these, and everything works fine and dandy. What people don't, always think outside the box, and they, I saw one guy that ground down, used a Dremel tool to take the ball end off so that the rods would go over, which is fantastic. It's thinking outside the box. I didn't think of that. But on the front knuckles, when you take these trucks apart, if you replace these front ends, there's bushings in there, and those bushings are the exact size for the stock shocks that go in that lower hole, and you can use the screw that Treal provided with your link set, and it instantly solves the problem. It's a little hatch bushing, fixes it perfectly. I posted that and made it searchable when those links came out. But people just don't search anymore. They just argue.
Well, if the hardware don't come, the company's horrible, right?
Yeah, and how do we know what shocks you're going to use or not use? I mean, that's hard to say. And to include, if you include extra parts for something that you may not have, then it looks like you have leftover parts.
Yeah. Well, that's why we value and appreciate your efforts, my man.
And it's what I do for a lot of companies, Treal especially. But when you have questions like that, ask the manufacturer. Send them the email, give them the chance to respond, and recognize time zones. And if you send an email, if you're East Coast on a Friday night at 8 p.m., you must be willing to wait until Monday.
Well, and
everybody works 24/7.
Well, and I think that's one of the biggest problems. And RCG's has just said it correctly. Like, people get pissed if they don't get a response in 10 minutes. Like, a lot of these companies are overseas. And I see that. I mean, all three of us see it all the time. Oh, I emailed Treal, I didn't get a response. Well, when did you email them? Saturday at 2 in the afternoon. Well, you know what? Nobody's working Saturday at 2 in the afternoon in China, so you have to be patient. But to your point, Jeremy, instead of blasting, I mean, I thought that was a horrible post. I mean, just like showing the conversation back and forth, like, email the manufacturer first. That should be or if a team driver, reach out to them on the side. People are so quick to pull the trigger and just blast the company and a lot of the stuff, Jeremy, we talked over the years, it's fixable. There's a way to fix it. There's not, I mean, we rarely ran into problems over the last 2 years that we couldn't really fix. I mean, maybe once or twice, but I mean, Treal makes it right. How many times do you know that Wendy will send free parts, free replacements, no questions asked? Next week you'll get it. So, for the people watching, not just Treal, any company, I would just email the manufacturer.
I suggested to FMS to put a email together when they reach out to them, put a generic response to allow at least 24 hours for them to respond, because there were so many comments right away that no one is responding to them yet. And they haven't even taken in consideration the time zone differences, that like they're still in bed. Like, no one's even read your email and you're waiting for a response, and put that automatic response out there, like allow 24 to 48 hours for them to respond, period.
And FMS is fantastic with it. I mean, they you know, the gear sets, the metal gear sets, people were stripping out the plastic gear sets on the FCX 24s. You know, we put these trucks through torture, and really probably beyond the design, you know, concept here. So they instantly set out the metal gear sets. Well, you know, the metal gear sets were not the right tooth count, so they sent out more. You know, they're very responsive, and if you sent them an email and said, hey, these don't mesh right, like within a couple of days you'd have a new gear set. The companies are making it right, and they're making your experience better, and the reason that they do that is they want you to come back. And if they didn't want you to come back, you know, they wouldn't do that.
A fair point. I just saw a comment pop up here. You know, I put so much attention on China and giving them leeway to respond, but kind of look past the mom and pops, the garage-based basement mom and dad or mom and pop, in your house, weekend warrior companies that we have in this hobby. There are a lot of grassroots mom and pops also that are working full-time jobs Monday through Friday, you know, don't get home till 7 at night, and then have to start fielding emails and sorting through the nonsense of, you know, trust me, there's nonsense, sorting through the emails and getting back to people. So kudos to those guys. So please allow everybody, even the mom and pops, a chance to respond. Don't go on blast. Give them, you know, I don't know what the ethical time is, 24, 48 hours to respond to an email. Understand things happen.
And they might have some valid research to do based on what you're saying. I mean,
absolutely tracking a package, following up with UPS. I mean, the list could go on and on what they need to look into. Yeah. So good point. I'm still adjusting that we were still live. Oh, goodness.
People are still commenting. They're still listening. So this is good. So I should check in periodically every few minutes. I'm still live. So where's this red button at? This red light? Oh, live right here. I got it. Up left-hand corner. Live. I see it.
Usually I tell you. I didn't say. I thought you knew.
You can't get any
Mike, you got Jeremy. Any builds you're working on before we close out? What do you got on the bench? Oh, you, Mike. Anything on the bench before we close out?
I got one cool thing I'll show.
Yeah. Mike, you got anything on the bench? You're up next.
I've been talking so long. I killed my microphone.
I could hear you.
All right, I'll leave it unplugged. No, I don't got anything else. I'm done. I'm burnt out. It's been a long 2 hours.
There's a famous YouTuber, Josh Dutton, RC Every Day, and he does some really amazing things. And I'm totally serious on this. It is hard. Now I know it is hard to build those things, like those rat rods. Like that is a serious adventure. I wanted to try it and challenge myself each year. I try and challenge myself in a different thing. So I'm challenging myself, and he was like, dude, you bit off a lot by trying to make that 4-wheel drive. And now I know why I said that.
Are we going to see this?
Wow.
So you have a rat rod, and it is a MST portal axle inverted portal to get that ride height, get her nice and low. It's a leaf spring, double leaf front suspension. It's a cantilever rear suspension.
Jesus.
Is this a donut machine? Did you lock the front to do donuts?
So the front has a dig. so I can do burnouts. Like I underestimated how much work this is going to be.
And what kind of horsepower you got in there? Big can or what?
I don't know what to power it. I just got to get it to mechanically all function with steering and everything else. I mean, it steers. I mean, it steers. It's smooth as all get out, but I have to get a link up there from a certifier.
My rectal hurts looking at that.
Yeah, this is a project, and hopefully it's running by USTE. If not, I'll take it down. It's a neat thinking trap for me.
I'm not even going to show what's on my bench.
No, but I'm seriously gonna have to like. We're gonna have to smack Josh for getting in your head or something. He was contagious here. You can't look at this without seeing something from RC every day. So I appreciate you for giving that nod in there. But once you look at it, it goes past it. It has so much originality. Bravo, bro. That thing is nasty.
I have my, I get lost in my own mind a decent amount.
And this was your chance to Frankenstein it. Like
this, well, not even in the hobby, but just in general. I have my imperfections and my defects from time and headspace miscalculations in the past, and I need something to keep my mind focused on a solution. It's how I'm built. And this is definitely filling that void for me. And I've probably never felt better, or at least in the last year, I've never felt better
building this,
having something distract me like this.
Wow.
It's amazing.
I got to find something.
You're getting requests to bring this to USTE.
It'll be at USTE.
All right.
But finished or not, it will be at USTE. Just
if it's not finished, it'll get finished there. That's for sure.
Josh will take it from me. Probably.
Well, Nick's just saying something about safety meetings down in USTE and having fun, bring it along.
Yeah.
Well, that looks awesome, man.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show what's on my bench after that shit. It's always got to one up me on something wacky.
Well, we can tell you if everything goes smoothly. I know the three of us right now got something that we've been working on. I know, oh man, next week will be the official launch. If everything goes smooth, we should know probably Friday if we can talk about it. Saturday on the show, but I've been photo shooting and shooting video of this new truck that's coming. People probably know what it is already.
Well, it was on the internet.
It's been floating around the internet all day today.
Jeremy, I called Mike when I was with my daughter. I said, I'm scrolling through the feed. I saw three posts already.
Yeah, I think there was a little,
and they're all gone.
So are they?
Yeah,
okay. There was a little
paying attention.
No, there was. Shoot, I wanted to watch it. All right, so there was a little confusion on the launch. I'm glad they're going to get back on the same page, but that's exciting. That will happen next week. And the crawl for a cure, I'm telling you, this guy's got a great message. It's going to make you think twice. It'll hit a heartstring for the people that are personally impacted by somebody with cancer. This guy has a great battle story, one that he is winning. So I will be super excited to hear his message. My mother-in-law was diagnosed this week with 2 types of cancer and will be beginning radiation treatment immediately. So we know cancer is real. It's a thing and it's hard, but I think to hear somebody beating it, it will be good and inspirational. I'm excited to have him.
I hope everything works out.
I'm excited to go out and try out this. And not that the transmission is going to make any much of a difference, but it does look good. The red trans in here is pretty hot.
Well, tomorrow's going to be a good day. I hope everybody wheels. I'm going to try to take my daughters for the first time out in the woods. So we'll see how that goes. Somebody just commented they liked my shirt. They're getting excited for USTE. Hey, man, it's coming. For all the builders, but USTE will be here before you know it. That's for sure.
I know that 2.4 designs. Jeremy, what shirt's underneath that hoodie? Do you have a?
No, this is actually my super shafty.
Oh, okay. All right. I was hoping that you would have gotten your 2.4 design SORCA shirt for us tonight.
Yeah, I worked today, so getting home and getting ready, getting dinner and everything else, I just didn't have time for another wardrobe change today.
The marketing people over at 2.4 Designs are flat out geniuses. When the living rules were posted immediately.
So I gotta,
immediately 2.4 Designs puts the Pibs on SORCA shirt up.
Yep.
I'm crying.
That was That was a good boost for people. Really,
The sale chart for this weekend.
just out of frustration purchases, you know, they're like,
That shirt's been on the internet for almost 2 years now.
Yeah.
It's so more than a week.
they're ahead of their time over there. You know.
All right. Well,
If you haven't known, we'll put a link in the bio down below. Since we're still live, no harm, no foul to the SORCA family. It's no disrespect. It's
No,
out of
it's
love.
all in
RC
fun.
Jesus
It is.
said
It's all out of love.
we need a rectal shirt.
I'm working on it. I'm
Ah,
working on it.
Oh.
Adjust
that's the
your
next
rectum.
design.
And people sometimes get lost in the Pistol and Circus shirt, like take it literally. And again, it's not meant to be literal. It's not offensive. It's not mean.
It's all
Find
in
some-
fun.
It's all in fun. Please, literally, I've gotten messages. How dare you? It's fun.
Gotta have a
But
sense of humor.
go over to 2.4 Designs, and that's where you can get your fancy Tamiya. If you take notice, the color matches the color shirt. And if you can find a PS3 Tamiya can, I dare you.
Dare you, double dare you.
All right, we're good to end now live, Mike?
I guess we're so far overboard. I'm like kind of baked. I still can't believe it says live in the corner. I'm so rattled. All right. Well, listen, this was fun. Jeremy Kilburn, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming to the Rad Show.
Anytime.
It
Anytime.
was a blast. I know we get to talk often, but gosh darn it, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks.
you to everyone for jumping in. And I know we officially went out and thanked Rebel again. We always like to thank Jeff and what's happening over at Rebel RC week after week. We do remind people that Rebel is so much more than just the Rebel truck. Once you get to Rebel RC's website, he is a authorized dealer for so many options, and he does try very hard to find those very unique scale accessories, some lost things that you might not always find on the internet. If you check Rebel RC, Jeff might have found somebody. I mean, I've seen exclusive RC scale by Chris. He's tapped out to so many different brands to carry their product, and it's fantastic that Jeff does that. Good for him.
Well, remember, next week is Bushido week.
Hey, Jeremy,
Bushido week is
oh
next week.
yes, we got
We
Bushido.
forgot about that. Bushido week is next week.
Yes, and yes, everything's happening all at once in the same week.
Tracking multiple shipments like they were Santa Claus coming.
I
Oh,
bet.
I'm tracking.
Well, yes.
Tuesday night.
I've got Scale Rat finishing up my TF3. I've got a Night Runner coming. The Bushido. I'm missing a couple. The TRX-4m. There was one other one. Oh, the good dude over at Fishing Bill. Has anybody on this panel seen Fishing Bill? Fishing Bill's paint RC guy, great dude. We met him out at Beat the Creek. So he just whipped up a concoction of a nasty paint job, played Bob Ross on a step-side build, step-side body from Proline that I'm going to throw on a truck. But hey, Jeremy, so you've been a fan of the Rad Show. Look at this little guy I did. These are those canopies that you can put on the side of your tent. So we did them official with the logo.
Nice, very nice.
It'll be on the side of the Jeep. Just something little fun. You got to find something to put a smile on your face once in a while. And the thing that I've been doing all day has been playing with detail brushes. I found the greatest thing on Amazon, ultra detail brushes. I had no idea these things even existed. The end of that paintbrush is like the tip of a pen.
That's what it is.
Do you have one there? I
got the whole
kit. Okay, where did I put it? Look around here. Yeah,
they come in a nice little
nice
little black case.
Dude, these paint do you have one with an angled end? They have some with like a little angle so you can get up in a area. But I've been trying to focus on painting eyes, and like eyes on an action figure like will trip you out. Like this is not easy.
Eyes are tough. Yeah, they come with a nice little
there they are. So those just showed up from Amazon today, and I'm like, Man, you really have to have the right tool for the job. Why fight yourself? I'm tired of painting with ear cotton swabs. Like, how am I supposed to paint an eye when the freaking brush is bigger than the eyeball?
How much is that set on Amazon?
Dude, it was under $20.
And
Yeah.
they're not,
Gotta
they're
send
not
me the
expensive.
link. Send me the
Yeah,
link.
I will. Yeah, it was. I think there was like 12 brushes in it. But really, I took a really nice photo of it. And the other reason I did it is what came from Headhunter Studio. But I don't know where the heck I put it. I had this new head for the SCX6 that came from Headhunters, and I really wanted to take the time to, you know, do it right, do it some justice. And then I've been printing my mini heads, trying to get the paint right, get the lighting right, really trying to mess around with it.
One of the other free tip, if you want to do eyes, especially
Yes.
on very small figures, you know, especially
Yep.
on very small figures, the micro drill bit sets. So micro drill bits, if you can
Wow.
see it,
Yep.
fantastic for just getting that
Dot.
people
Yep.
and walk away from it.
Because you can have
So-
too much paint on the brush, and now it's a big daub. I mean, it's a nightmare. I must have
Yeah.
redid it like 10 times.
The
Now
the drill bits hold just enough to stay on that stainless steel, and it makes the perfect pupil. The hardest part about doing eyes is getting the pupils even, right?
Yes,
You
I know the trick.
go ahead,
Off the end of the lips.
off of the end of the lips, but to keep them level with each other, so one's not like
Oh, okay.
so a lot of times you'll go in and you'll paint the pupils large and come back with white underneath of the pupils
Yep.
to equalize them, to get the heights right, unless you like just crazy drivers. But that generally is what it looks like. And if you need reference, just pick up another action figure and look at how they're
Okay.
done, and it'll give you that step-by-step process. But there is a process, and I actually watched a video from Headhunters on how to paint eyes. That was a
Yep.
couple years ago.
Yep.
So very helpful tip.
Now, the one that I recently watched on YouTube, the guy did it digitally. Now, he's a painter, but he did it on his computer and went through step by step,
Yeah.
actually trying to put like eyeliner. And the reason he did the eyeliner was to give it depth.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I was like learning how to center them so it's not like cross-eyed. And
Painting faces is difficult, and you have to, like, I have bags underneath my eyes. You have to kind of like replicate the facial structure. You have the T-zone, you have the cheekbone, you have the chin, and then you have the neckline. And you have to paint it in steps. So you have to work your way from the negative out. So you got to start with the eyes, then build the brow, and layer it out.
Heavy.
And the face and the skin tones are all in layers. You got to really layer up.
well, and that I think in the layer sense, the thing that I learned was to water your paint down. I added water and really did
Yeah.
thin coats. It was like 3 coats of paint to get the face covered.
Yeah.
Brush it on lightly.
So this is
Yes.
layered. This was all black carbon nylon print.
No,
And
wait.
it's all, it's just in
this-
layers.
Is that you or Brian Almeida? Who was the artist that did this one?
So Brian printed it. I painted it.
Holy crap. Good for you. Because we all learned a lot from watching Brian Almeida. Like that
Yeah,
man could freaking
If
paint.
his face paintings or video is still out there, it was actually, he did one with me for one of my drivers. He like showed me how to paint myself, which is always tricky, but he has a great tutorial on how to start and how to shade and how to build multicolors out of your base color selection, how to mix.
The skin tone. And then even on Desmond, he started doing the tattoos like on, I mean, they weren't to scale, they weren't replica, but that you knew it was a tattoo. I mean, impressive.
Hey, Jeremy, you got that boom racing jig?
Oh,
That's what's holding my driver at the moment.
Oh, he's like,
So
That thing looks fantastic.
That
was a
is
good-
fantastic.
That was a good product they dropped.
Now,
This
what
is
were you
fantastic.
saying here about the dual handle? Is that
Okay,
an optional
so
upgrade?
it comes with one.
Okay.
So by getting the second one, now you can kind of bring it towards you and put your wire in between and make your adjustments instead of just relying on one arm.
To make
and
sense.
What it's mounted on. But this thing is cool. Like the little motor stand,
Yeah.
it swings out. I wish my lighting was better.
Holy crap.
So it actually swings out from the side. And that's your motor base, and it's two
Oh, wow.
planes. It's two planes that you can
Wow.
set something this way or this way.
Wow, they did a
Wow.
good job on that.
That
Yeah.
is impressive.
This is where the battery plugs would go in, and that's spring loaded on this thumb screw. So it has a
Wow.
spring in it that allows you to clamp it down without crushing the connector, and it holds it solid. And it goes from the XT30 to the XT90. It also has on the side, it has where you can put wires straight in.
Wow.
It's got all the sizes for all the bullet connectors. So if you're the big dog and you're running these big 10 mils, you can put the bullet connector right in there.
That's a great
Wow.
tool, man.
But that's taking jigs to a whole
Yeah.
other level. Holy
Yeah, there's
crap.
a lot you can do with this, and there's 4 threaded holes. There's these 2 down here, these 2 up here, so you can move these around, or you can put a bolt in, or whatever you're going to do. It's really a smart tool, and it's got weight to it. Like I was afraid it would slide around because it's aluminum,
Yep.
and never solder live batteries into an aluminum jig. Like, don't do that. You will catch it on fire. But it has enough weight, like it doesn't slide around on the bench. And
Wow.
I haven't had to use my 1, 2, 3 blocks to hold it steady.
Okay.
It sits. It doesn't flop. It doesn't want to tip
Wow.
with things on it. So I'm pretty happy with it.
It turned into a must-have tool, and if you've ever been on the fence teetering, if you needed yourself a jig, this might be the perfect one for you to solve a lot of problems.
So for $3, you can get this nightmare.
Right.
And it has the magnifying glass, which I've already taken off because it just makes it flop over.
Yeah.
Look, you can work with this nightmare. It's $3.99 at most shops. The problem is that it doesn't stay tight. It moves, and it's just plastic thumb screws, and it's kind of cheesy. This is, I've used this helping hand station for probably 5 years.
Yeah.
Now I grown up.
Yeah. You graduated.
Boom Racing dropped that. That's a nice
That's
product.
great. That is fantastic. That's good stuff. I love it.
All right.
All right. We got to find something to
Yeah, we got to go.
We got to pull something. But pull the ripcord here. We got.
All right, Mike, just so you know, I'm ending it. All right.
All right. Okay.
All right. We'll see you guys next week. Look for the announcement of the guest during the week. Like the Rad Show Facebook page and Instagram. Look for updates. We'll post this out tomorrow. And if you have any questions or want to be a guest on the show, radrcshow@gmail.com. And we'll see you guys next week. Jeremy, always pleasure. Thanks for joining in. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.